Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 14th of June. Today we have some interesting updates, so let's start. And today we are going to start with Kharkiv area. If you remember, in my previous video I told you that there are a lot of forces in Stary-Saltov and that the Ukrainians have some bridgehead on this side of the river, and that the Russians are trying to push Ukrainians back and to establish control over this area, over this bulk of the Seversky Donets river. They want to establish control over Rubezhne, Verkhnyi Saltov, Stary Saltov. And if you remember, according to my previous version of this map, the Russians were managed to take control over Shestakova and Fedorovka. But the latest update I have, according to the latest update I have, the Russians were moved from these towns. There were no regular forces in Fedorovka, Shestakova, just commanders or scouts, and their main mission was to reduce the Ukrainian forces, Ukrainian supply that were heading from Kharkiv towards Stary Saltov. So there are no more Russians in this area. But the Russians are moving from Ternova, from Staritsa, from the territory under control towards Stary Saltov, and of course they want to ruin the Ukrainian plans, Ukrainian bridgehead on this side of the river. So if we take a look at this map, this is like the approximate plan of the battles in this area. And according to the information I have, town by the name of Rubezhne is under the Russian control. And from this area, as I see, the Russians are trying to attack Bayrak, Zamulivka and Verkhnyi Saltov. And yesterday there was very heavy clashes near Verkhnyi Saltov, and this area between Ternova, Rubezhne, this forest, and Izbitska, and between Stary Saltov is a gray zone, and as I understand, nobody controls this area like for 100%, because yesterday there was two updates that the Russians were attacking Verkhnyi Saltov, and for that purposes they were trying to attack area between Stary Saltov and Verkhnyi Saltov, because this is the only one way how the Ukrainians can move their forces, their reinforcements towards Verkhnyi Saltov. But from the other side, the Ukrainians announced that they attacked Izbitskaya. So you see where is Izbitskaya? It's like very back in the Russian front line. So there are very heavy clashes there, and mainly the commandos and scouts are fighting with each other in this territory. And today we got some updates that the Russians were forced to use their aviation, their helicopters, their planes, aircraft in this area to support their forces. We know that there are not much forces from both sides, from the Ukrainians and from the Russians as well. So this situation forced the Russians to use their aviation in this area to support their offensive operation. And as I understand, the Russians just want to clear their front line and to ruin the bridgehead near Stary Saltov. There is no more updates from this territory. Let's move to the south, and now we are around Balaklia. I know the situation on the front line is very interesting, and the most interesting part is that the Russians achieved some success. The previous week they managed to cross the Seversky Donets river, they established control near Slavyansk, they pushed Ukrainians in Severodonetsk and encircled some forces there and created some cauldron there. And most of the Russian forces are involved on different front lines. So we can say that the Russians doesn't have a lot of forces, free forces that they use and to move from one front line to another front line. And to tell the truth, this situation makes a very good situation for the Ukrainians. We can say that now it's the best situation for them to start a counter-offensive operation on any piece of the front lines. And of course, for these purposes, it's better to use the front lines where they haven't any offensive operation before. And we can say that, for example, Balaklia is one of such areas. The Ukrainians didn't do any attempt to establish control over this town before, so we can say that there are not much of the Russians in this area. If we take a look at this area and take a look at Balaklia, there are just two towns, Balaklia, Savintsy, and the nearest town is Izum and maybe Barova. So this area is pretty far from the main Russian forces, from the main their position. I'm sure that Balaklia is pretty protected, but more and more Ukrainian sources and Russian sources confirms that Ukrainians are planning and accumulating forces in this area for just for one reason: to start offensive operations towards Balaklia. Now I can't tell you the real strategic value of this town. The only thing that comes to my mind is that the Ukrainians want to establish control over this railroad station, and we know that in Balaklia there is still some warehouse, the Russians warehouse with the shells 152 millimeters. Maybe this is also a reason why the Ukrainians are planning and trying to establish control over this town. So we can say that the operation in this area looks like as follows. The Ukrainians brought their forces towards Pervomaiska, towards Gusarovka, and towards Prishep. These three towns is full of Ukrainians. Of course, they have some position near Shurovka, Zaliman, and so on. If we take a look at the Russian sources map, we're gonna see one important note that at least 2 points in this area, you see this fire, are marked as the Russians destroyed the Ukrainians' drones. So we can say that Ukrainians do very effective and a very massive intelligence in this area, trying to understand the Russians' positions and so on. And 2 drones, at least the 2 known drones, that information we got from the Russian Ministry of Defense report, were destroyed in this area. So the Ukrainians are planning to do something in this area. And as I see, the military Russian experts are saying that the Ukrainians are trying to attack just Balaklia, but I think that the Ukrainians are planning to attack this area along entire river. And as we discussed, the river is no longer a game changer in this conflict, in this war. The river is nothing. So there are a lot of places where the level of the water is very low, and this situation allows Ukrainians to attack the Russians and the territory that is under their control along entire front line, along entire river. So I think that Ukrainians are going to attack this bridgehead from many sides, and you see that there is a forest along the river, and this will allow them to stay hide in this forest. And of course, a surprise effect, we can say that they're gonna have some surprise effect. So we're gonna follow this situation in Balaklia. One important update about town Verbovka. If we take a look at the West Sources map, you see that this town is under the Ukrainians' control. But if we take a look at the Russian sources map, this area, Verbovka and entire Balaklia, is under the Russians. And according to the West Sources map, this area is under the Ukrainians. So I added this area under the Russian just for better understanding. We'll follow the situation, but something tells me that soon we're gonna see some offensive operation in this area. Now let's move to the south, to this area. Today I got one very strange and very interesting report about this forest on the west from Izum, and the strangest part of that report was that some Ukrainian sources announced that the Ukrainians managed to capture Pridonetskaya, this town. I'm not sure how it's possible, maybe it's some kind of speculation, but I think that we should discuss the situation as well, because this is the information that the Ukrainians are using in their daily updates and their daily analysis of situation. So if it's true, of course, like the distance between Pridonetsk and Izum, just 8 kilometers, so it's nothing. So we'll follow this situation as well. The Ukrainians also are using this bridgehead between Chepel, Prokopivka, Zavgorodnya and Petrovskaya to cross the river, and they're trying to start some offensive operation towards Izum from the west. We'll see. Let's take a look at the Russian sources map. If there are any updates, no, there is no updates, no updates about drones, no updates about artillery strikes. So you see, just on the Izum bridgehead, another drone was destroyed near Izum, right on top, right above the Russians bridgehead. So we'll see, we'll follow. Now let's discuss a little bit situation about Slaviansk bridgehead, about around Svetogorsk. There is just one update. As you can see, the Russians moved their green line, saying that from now on Bogorodishne is under total Russian control, and soon this area will be updated in red color, and that will be like the final point from their side that Bogorodishne is totally under their control. If we take a look at the Ukrainians West sources map, we're gonna see that this town is still under Ukrainians, but there is like very angry red line right on the west and north from this town, so that means that there is something interesting there, and maybe the West sources map is not updated and this town is already under the Russians, but we'll follow, we'll see. Another important, so I have updated this map, so you see that there is like three differences, like Dovginka, Bogorodishne, Tyanovka, Pryship is under the Russians. There are very heavy clashes around Dolina, and the Russians are attacking Dolina from two sides, from Bogorodishne and along this river MO3, as we discussed. If you remember, it like show you the big picture. They're moving from this forest, but the Ukrainians are still holding this area, and as I see, they're not planning to give up. So we'll see, we'll follow. There were no more updates from Sidorova. As I understand, this town, of course, I must say, in the gray zone, but I see that the Russians are not pushing hard in this area, and mainly because of the fact that they're doing some regrouping, they're moving some equipment, shelling, ammunition, forces to this area, so they're preparing for the next battle over Slaviansk. So the Russians is not like unstoppable machine sometimes, and I see that usually as soon as they achieve some success on any kind of front line, they stop for a while and then start regrouping. Furthermore, if you know, today is the worldwide international event like Donors Day, the Donors Blood Day, and today I got a lot of interesting updates from Russia, that there are a lot of points, a lot of places in Russia where a lot of people from mainly from government offices like school, hospitals, like universities and so on, some authorities, tax authorities, so on, people from these places were heading towards these points, and they gave a lot of blood. So we can say that it's also some kind of factor, some kind of bell for us that the Russians are preparing, and they're filling their warehouses with blood, with a lot of blood. So that's mean that they're planning another stage of their offensive operation, and as we discussed, they need to be sure that they have a lot of blood, because if there are any offensive operation, and it will be, we're gonna see offensive operations towards Slaviansk, there would be a lot of losses, so they need to reduce their losses as much as possible. The Ukrainian military authorities announced that the Russians are preparing their offensive operation towards Raigorodok. We discussed this town's very important area, like Mayaki and Raigorodok, and from Yampol towards Seversk. So as I see, the Russians are still planning to cross this river somewhere here. As I understand, some commandos and scouts already on this side of the river doing their job, so we'll follow the situation. The only one update, the one thing I want to know, that as you see, the West sources map has been updated, and they added the region on the west from Liman and on the south of Liman under the Russian control. So we see that in a week, maybe in 2, the West source map has been updated, but they updated, and that's good. Now let's talk about one of the most important part of this area, of this special operation, Severodonetsk. We got more updates about this area for today. They're very amazing. So let's start. As yesterday we discussed that the Ukrainians in this area were surrounded. They not just surrounded, they got in cauldron. For them, there is no way to escape this area anymore. As I understand, if we take a look, by the way, the Russian sources map, we can say at least there is some more like their icons. They put their icons trying to put them like with geo correct. So if you see, according to information I have from the Russian sources, the Ukrainians were trapped somewhere here in central part. you see this like a word home corridor. This in this area. If we take a look at this, the Ukrainians were trapped somewhere here. They are here. Somehow, I don't know how did this happen, but somehow the Russians managed to do some offensive operation, maybe just commando, some special forces. They reached this area and a little bit to the south. So it's like very, very softly I can say, but something like this did happen during the previous days. So according to information I have, these forces, the Ukrainian forces located in this plant, totally encircled, and there is no way for them to escape this area. Yesterday we discussed that these forces have some hostages amongst civilians and they're not allowing them to retreat, to leave this area. Also we discussed that Ukraine also doesn't have any possibilities to escape this area. Today we got more updates. First of all, this morning the Ukrainian forces in this area asked permission from Russian forces to create some evacuation road for civilians from this plant, safe evacuation road. You see that we see the same story as we saw in Azovstal. Those forces also were encircled, and by the end of the situation, these forces asked Russians to give them permission for creating some evacuation roads. In this case, these forces asked to create some evacuation roads from this plant towards Lysychansk, like to give possibility for civilians to safely leave the plant, Azov plant. There was Azovstal, here we have Azov, like everything like the same, and they asked permission to for this road to evacuate from plant towards Lysychansk. But the Russians refused. They told that, listen guys, all 3 bridges are already destroyed. How do you want civilians to cross the river without bridges? I'm saying you like their logic. What did they respond to the Ukrainians? So that's why we think, Russians, that the civilians should go towards Russian territory because it's much more safe. There are like stable roads. There is no problems to cross the streets. The road is okay, but not towards Lysychansk. So that's why we understand that the Russians refused the Ukrainians' ask for evacuation road. But this is not the end. After that, in an hour and 2, I got the message, like every single Russian Telegram channel published this information, that there are around 2,500 of soldiers. Yesterday I told you that around 600, but today we got update. Maybe it's some kind of speculation, I don't know, but we have what we have. And according to this information, I'll repeat, maybe it's speculation, there are around 2,500 of soldiers. Another important update, that according to the DPR sources, there are around 20 or 25% of foreigners. So if we calculate 25% from 2,500, we can say that there are around 600 of foreigners on this plant, surrounded, encircled, without any possibility to leave this area. Yesterday we discussed that it's not just 600 of foreign soldiers, foreign volunteers, maybe mercenaries, maybe volunteers and mercenaries, but the thing is that it's potential 600 death penalties. Situation is very critical. It's very critical. These guys are done already. They won't be able to escape this area, only with very big losses. They understand this situation very well. I don't know what Ukrainians were thinking about when they allowed this situation to happen. So I see that the Russians already control the situation near Azov. So we'll follow. But another important update, I'll update you about this area, that there are 2 cauldrons already. One cauldron in Azov plant, this area, and the second one in Borivske. So according to the Russian sources, Metelkino, Voronovo, Sirotina is under their control. This map is not updated, and to tell the truth, and the Russians map is not updated like totally, entirely. They're showing that Metelkino is under their control. For example, Voronovo is in the gray zone, Sirotina is under the Ukrainians, not in the gray zone. Voronovo, Borivske is under the Ukrainians. But some sources are saying that all these towns is already under Russian, just Borivske is not. So that's why I won't update this information. Let's it be like it is, and let's move on. Let's move to our Gorsko-Zolotoye. There are no changes there. The Russians are grinding this area, trying to reduce Ukrainians as much as possible. The only difference is about Toshkovka. You see that the Russians has already marked this area under their control, just with one exception about the block Chehirova. This one, but this block doesn't change the picture because from this area the Russians are able to cut this road. The heaviest clashes, of course, around Nikolaevka, around Vrubivka, and the Russians are trying to attack Vrubivka from the south side, from this area, but there are very heavy clashes, and every single meters the Russians are taking new meter, like one day one new meter. Very difficult. There are a lot of forces there, and it's very difficult for them. By this evening, right before I start recording this video of the local time, of course, the Russian sources announced that the Russians managed to establish control over some east part of Berestova, and that they cut this road of life physically, not just with the fire control, but we can see that using like that they managed to do this physically. So we'll see, we'll follow this situation as well. Another important update are coming now from Svetlodarsk, from this Ugledarsk power plant. Yesterday I told you, we discussed that the Russians established control over Vodorozhenie Roty. Also, it's like on the northeast part, and if you're talking about the south, the Russians established control over Dolomitne maybe a week ago, so they're trying to encircle this area as well. I'm not sure, and I can't tell you the exact quantity of soldiers in this area. I think that in a day or in two we're gonna understand and gonna find out the quantity of the Ukrainians that might be encircled there. So I just update this map for better understanding. And this morning we got some update that the Russians moved towards Vershina. They entered this town, this village Vershina. It's a very small village, just a few buildings, a few houses. And according to information I have, it was Wagner's group who entered the village. So we can say that this area is encircled. It's like operational encirclement, because there is still one road that leads from Ugledarsk power station towards Kadema, this white line. This road is already under fire control, but to tell the truth, I'm not sure what the Russians are planning to do next, because it's too difficult to cross 5 kilometers from the south and from the north, and it's possible using just tanks, very armored tanks. So we'll follow, we'll see what are they going to do next. Maybe they won't do anything more. They will just bring their 203mm artillery Malka and try to ruin this Ugledarsk power plant till ruined. So we'll follow, and we'll follow. About Donetsk, let's take a look at Donetsk. Donetsk is still under shelling. You see the shelling, it's Gorlovka, sorry, Donetsk. You see Donetsk, today we see that the quantity of shelling reduced. So it was much less than it was yesterday. And everybody from the Russian sources are saying that it was the worst day ever since 2014. This town haven't seen such shelling ever. Maybe like in the Second World War there was some kind of shelling like this, because yesterday it was nightmare in Donetsk. Today everything stopped. Now at least they start bombing Yasinovata, and Yasinovata is like right in front of Avdiivka, so there is like military objects. We can say that if they're shelling the Russians' military objects, at least, or the places that located near a Russian military object. So, and that's it about Donetsk. No more updates. The only one important update, according to the information I have, So everybody asks why the Russians can't establish control over Avdiivka, why can't they bring their air forces to bomb this area and so on. There are like three reasons why can't they do this. First of all, this area is very, not few reasons. First of all, this area is very fortified. If you take a look at Avdiivka, it's a very small village. There are a few villages around this town, and there are around 15,000 of Ukrainian soldiers. Just take a look at Avdiivka, the small village. Just like take a look, not big. We can calculate its like with this help of this, just 8 kilometers, 15,000. And now let's take a look at Severodonetsk and Lysychansk agglomeration. You see Lysychansk agglomeration, Severodonetsk, Zolotoye. There are 15,000 soldiers on entire this territory. Compare, like just compare 15,000 here, like Lysychansk, Severodonetsk, Borivsk, Zolotoye, Gorsk, and a small Avdiivka, 15,000. Of course, with the villages around this area. A lot of Ukrainians, a lot of equipment, a lot of artillery, a lot of missiles, a lot of anti-airports, every single type of weapon that Ukraine has, they have it there. So it's not very easy, at least, to come close to this area with your airplanes. And they have a lot of possibility to destroy the Russian drones. So we must say that the Russian intelligence in this area with drones is on a very low level. Not because they don't want to do this, because the Ukrainians are very effective against this. You see that we saw that the Russians tried to prepare some flower of Verkhnetoretsk, like to break through the Ukrainian defense in this area by attacking New York, by trying to encircle Avdiivka, but they stopped and they can't do anything more. Furthermore, 15,000, a lot of army, and another important update about this area, that Avdiivka chemical plant. Avdiivka chemical plant. You see that there was a chemical plant in Severodonetsk. You remember those pictures of destroyed, of big smoke on in the sky. And it's very dangerous, and you see that this chemical plant is very close to Donetsk, and if the winds will be successful for the Ukrainians, all these chemical things may go to Donetsk, and there may be a lot of casualties. And I'm sure that there are some chemical things on this plant, so this is the reason why the Russians, they don't know how to solve this issue. If they destroy Avdiivka and push Ukrainians, of course, they can destroy all the chemical stuff on this area. I'm not saying that I have 100% information, I'm just projecting what is going on there. It's a chemical plant, so that means that something can be there connected with chemical stuff, and this stuff is very dangerous, not just for Avdiivka, but for entire Donetsk with population more than 1 million. And how to solve this issue? The only one way how to solve Avdiivka issue is to encircle this area. And to cook this area as long as possible, maybe months, maybe 2, maybe even a year, like to establish control over entire Avdiivka, to encircle it, those 15,000 with their food, ammunition, with their defense, with their fortification, and wait when they will eat everything, drink everything, and use every single bullet, and after that there will be no other way, just surrender. Maybe this is the only one option for this area. And now let's talk about a little bit about Nikolaev, Kherson area today. There is not much changes there. The only one that Westsource map show us that the Russians moved some missiles, a reactive system towards Alexandrovka. By the way, if you take a look at the Russian sources map, you're gonna see that this town is under the Russian control, this Alexandrovka, but it's not the point. This is not the point. The Russians pushed their reactive system here. Yesterday we discussed, a few days ago maybe, that the Russians managed to establish control over this territory, and they cleared this area from Ukrainian commanders. Furthermore, the Russians managed to clear this gulf. Every single Ukrainian ship were destroyed in this area. There is no more Ukrainian fleet here. And they have some boats that could attack. They have some big marine ships and so on. And I ask myself, why did Russian do this just yesterday? Why didn't they destroy this fleet like months ago? I'm sure that they had possibility, And I found answer to this question. First of all, this area between Achakov and Kinburskaya Kosa was mined. This area was mined, and all this gulf is mined. And the Russians didn't attack and didn't start their offensive operation against this fleet just for one reason. They were following the Ukrainians in this area, and they were trying to understand where is the safe roads, where is the safe sea roads in this area. And as soon as they found out every single safe place in this area, because Ukrainians were using this gulf to move their forces towards this Kinburskaya Kosa. And of course, if they did this, that means they know the safe roads, and the Russians were following them. And now the Russians have this the map of mines in this area, and they understand exactly where is safe road and where is unsafe. And this is the reason why they brought their reactive missile system here. We discussed that there is a few ways how to establish control over Nikolaev, and people are often asking when the Russians are going to take Nikolaev. To tell the truth, I'll give you my opinion. The Russians don't need Nikolaev at all. They don't need this town. They don't need this town. They understand that as soon as the offensive operation against Nikolaev starts, the Ukrainians would blow this bridge, and this town becomes useless because it's not Seversky Donetsk. It's few times wider than Seversky Donetsk, and you won't be able to establish any pontoon bridge here or cross it. It's impossible. And the nearest way to cross the river is far from the north. And the Russians won't be able to establish control over entire this bridgehead by stretching their army. They don't have so much resources, manpower in this area. So Nikolaev is not the main idea, it's not the main goal. But Odessa is. And today I got the first report from the Russian military experts that the Russians might try to establish control over Achakov, this town. So they, as soon as they find out their safe roads, bring some reactive artillery systems, and from this area they can control like 20 kilometers to this road, and for example 40 kilometers to this road. So we can say that this area is really under fire control, of fire artillery control. And the Russians can destroy any support and equipment that Ukrainians will try to move from Nikolaev towards Achakov. And of course it's a very risky operation, but the Russians has possibility to establish control over Achakov. So I marked a plan like a possible way what the Russians can do. So if you want to establish control over Nikolaev, just to attack along this bulk of the river is not enough, because this river bridge will be destroyed. Another way how to establish control over Nikolaev is through Achakov, like two ways operation. Through Achakov, moving to Nikolaev, and from Kherson moving to Nikolaev. And Achakov is a very nice position for defense, because you see that there is just one way to bring forces here. So maybe we're gonna see in a very near future that the Russians will try to establish control over Achakov. And that's it for today. I'll remind you one more time that Military Summary condemns any violence in Ukraine, any aggression in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, and enjoy your day. Bye bye.